All right. I know. I've been putting up a lot of videos. Don't worry, I haven't lost my mind. I just got a new toy in this A5 and I've been having fun with it. So I just thought I would share with you guys what I've been doing. I'm still shooting on the X-T1 and loving it. But testing out this video has just been way too much fun. The quality keeps surpassing what I expect for such an inexpensive body. But this video tonight, what I want to share here is my buddy Keven. I told you guys about him earlier. He got the Nikon D2x that he was expecting today, and he brought it down to my shop to show it to me. And I thought this would be an excellent opportunity to show you guys just a real conversation between two camera buffs that like to keep it cheap. But want to get the best quality that they can. So this video was shot without him knowing that he was on camera until the end when I revealed it to him and he said it was cool to put it up. So I hope you're still cool with it, Kevin. Oh, here comes Pickles. Hi, Pickles. Hi, Mr. Pickles. No kissing. Crazy dog. Okay, so a couple of things real quick before we start the video. I did have to do this kind of incognito, so I couldn't touch the camera while this was filming. So you will see some issues with lighting and with focus that occur just because it is a extremely difficult lighting position. We're in a pretty dark room with a seriously backlit door. So keep that in mind, but this is more about just the conversation and the way that we talk about what we're looking for out of these cameras and what we expect and what we understand about buying an older body that we could be missing out on. So hopefully this is helpful. Enjoy, guys. Here comes Kevin walking through the door, bringing his new toy. Woo! Somebody got a new camera.
Camera and film developed.
Nice. Is that why you went to Idaho Camera?
Yeah, and I thought they might have this little door cover thing, but apparently, I didn't know this, they got put on Nikon's naughty list a couple years back. They can't even get replacement parts anymore.
That sucks.
So I just ordered one off eBay on the way here.
Dude,
Dude, look at the shape it's in, right?
Yeah, it looks great.
Like, it's a little dirty on the red part here. Other than that, it's like flawless.
I wouldn't kid about how thick they are, though.
Oh, yeah, but it feels great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't feel like you're going to lose grip on it.
No. And it's not as heavy as I thought it would be either.
Looks like it's all functioning.
Yeah, just be careful with the battery. If you jostle it, it'll come out.
I keep looking at the back screen.
Right? Mr. Mirrorless.
Yeah, it looks great, dude.
The screen's not the best, but...
No, the screen's terrible.
Yeah.
But it's not representative.
No, not at all.
The
Man,
zoom sucks.
Yeah, it only has one level of zoom, and that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, I played with it for a little bit. I had to work late, and the wife wanted some yard work done. And then, it just took me 19 minutes to go 2 miles in traffic here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, we're talking crappy.
Dude, it feels so good. And in some regards, it looked like you just took it out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, it looks
I
great.
am so freaking happy with this thing.
Very good condition.
Right?
Let me grab those lenses.
Oh.
Little turbo action.
Well, and what's really cool is so in the viewfinder, when you're not half pressing, it shows you how many available shots are in the buffer that you can take, and it's slowly counting back up to 17 as the buffer clears.
Yep.
And then when you're holding it down, it counts down. When the buffer's clear, it tells you how many pictures you've taken. It also has that up here. Dude, I know it only goes up to ISO 800, without going into the high mode or whatever. But dude, I got all the buttons all set up and everything I want, which is mostly pretty much the same, except it's got like a dedicated mirror up button.
That's actually
a what is that called? That is a, gosh, I can't remember what that's called, but what it does is it closes down the aperture range.
Oh, like a focus preview or a depth of field preview.
Yeah, there you go, depth of field preview.
Right.
So it closes down the focus
Oh,
of the
right.
aperture.
Because these cameras, unlike the mirrorless ones, yeah, they change the aperture right before you take the picture, so the focusing and everything can still work.
But that's a good way of being able to tell your depth of field before you shoot the shot, even though you can't see the result. Oh, that was a long shot.
No, that's I was playing with the
okay.
depth of field preview.
But it's a good way to see your depth of field, even though you can't see the final exposure. But yeah, depth of field preview.
Crazy,
so here's
man.
the 70 or the 35 to
Now,
70.
do you have that listed on Craigslist? Because I just saw one the other day. For
I don't.
like, oh,
You got your I Shoot Raw t-shirt on.
right. It felt like the day, man. I was like, oh yeah, none of this.
Did they say anything at Idaho Camera about that?
No, that's what they brought up to like, yeah, we can't even, Nikon won't send us parts or anything.
I'm just
anymore.
surprised they didn't mention the shirt.
Yeah, no. So my first impression was it was beautiful. It felt really good in my hand, from my size hand.
Yep.
The build quality felt amazing, and probably the most shockingly was like, even though it's like a 14-year-old camera, I was immediately, because it was a Nikon, I was able to immediately pick it up, figure out, how to change the drive modes, what the wheels were doing, AF on, figure how, I was like, oh, that looks like metering. I want center weighted. I was able to figure out the focus groups. The first thing I did when I got it, I spent 30 seconds playing with the menus, found the firmware, and yeah, it was still in version 1 of the firmware, updated it to version 2, so I got all of those improvements and everything. And then almost all the menu settings and everything for setting up like the custom buttons and auto ISO and all of that just felt normal. And in fact, better than my 5300 because
It's easier, a lot less menus to go through.
right, no,
Everything has a button.
Everything has a button.
Yep.
Like if I'm like often when I'm out with the 5300, right? If I'm doing like street photography or something, or especially indoor photography, or just like mixed photography, if I'm doing out shooting animals, right? Like the settings I use for tracking flying birds are way friggin' different than the settings I use for trying to pick up a sitting duck or squirrel or something, right? But often at night, lots of times I walk around in aperture priority, and then because that's for me, just changing the depth of field is my biggest thing that I want to be doing most of the time when I'm using primes and whatnot.
Sure.
I'm changing my exposure by that, and I have the auto ISO. I try to remember to go back and change that to change the minimum shutter speed for auto ISO to match kind of what I'm doing in my lens. So for like my 50mm prime, there's no optical stabilization. I try to stay at like 1/100th, 1/125th of a second. When I've got the 600 Sigma on there, effectively 900 on a crop sensor, I try to keep it above 1,000, 1250 if I can. Just even with all the OSS that lens has, I still notice a sharpness difference, making sure I'm following the reciprocal rule. But sometimes when I'm out doing, especially night photography and indoor, the auto ISO, especially my 5300, adjusts itself, the auto ISO and everything, and aperture priority to make stuff look like daylight. It's like, well, that's not what I want, right?
Sure.
And even setting the exposure compensation. It'll be a lot. I did that for quite a while, but I would walk around, at night with my exposure compensation down like negative 1.3 stops, right?
Yep.
And then I go to shoot in the middle of the day, and my photos are all dark. And the digital sensors, you can recover more detail from highlights than you can from shadows.
Sure.
So way underexposing it on just everyday photos or landscapes or something. So to be able to have the ISO right here, that my 5300 doesn't have as many buttons, so I've got like one function button on this side. I was able to set to, I forget what right now, but I got the ISO, the quality, the white balance, which mostly just leave on auto. Even just like the D-pad back here.
Uh-huh.
I said it was like this by default, but it's super handy. That's a whole nother button pushing in.
Yep.
It doesn't bring up a menu or something like it does on the 5300, and that moves my focus point right back to the center. So if I'm off
good.
over here because I want to offset someone, rule of thirds, and then I want to go back to shooting center, just bam, instead of having to make sure I got the thing, move the focus point over, just back to center, and if I want to do a little bit to that side, back to center over one. I've been playing with it at home, as you can tell. But
well, that's the features that make it pro, because a pro doesn't have time to wait for this.
Fiddle around going into the menus, and it's the thing that gets me on that 5300 is like, the camera defaults when you go back into the menu to most recently used settings.
On the 5300.
On the 5300, when you go back into the menu, it goes into the recently changed settings menu.
Okay.
And usually on the top of there is my auto ISO settings. I try to leave it there. Like if I change any other setting, I'll go in and mess with the auto ISO setting just so it's back on top. Because if I go in to change that auto ISO, so the minimum ISO I want it to be at, the minimum shutter speed, or turning it on or off, I have to hit menu, click, OK or over, select my menu item, and then menu to get back out of it. I mean, it's a whole, 5 to 7 presses or something to change one of those settings. Whereas this, it's hold down a button and spin a wheel, which is so nice.
Yeah.
And the number of shots I've probably missed from realizing, I switched from my 50mm to my 600, and now my shutter speed's at 1/100th, and all of this is going to look like butter and not the good kind, right? Click, click, click. Meanwhile, the duck has flown off, or the goat is no longer posed right, or whatever. So,
yeah, that's all what sold me on pro bodies when I first got my D2H. So same camera, just lesser megapixels and higher ISO, but only 1600.
right.
It's not like it's that much higher. But when I got that thing and realized all of the quickness that you could change all of your settings through, dedicated buttons and then moving your scroll wheels, you can just take the bottom cap off.
Yeah.
But when I figured all that out, I realized just how valuable that was to me for shooting concert photography. And that's why I've had a really hard time going back to consumer or prosumer bodies, because they just don't have that ability.
Nope.
But that's, the X-T1 does have all of those options, which is why I really enjoy it. And I still do like the smaller body of the X-T1 for carrying around, just the extra weight. But that large body on those things feels so good in your hand. Yeah, push out and then.
Oh, right. I was trying to turn it to zoom.
Yeah.
Man, okay. Let's see how this. Is it gonna work? I'll take a picture.
What's it saying?
FEE.
Oh, FEE, no good.
Just doesn't like. Oh, it's not.
So here, let me show you.
It's not on auto aperture.
Yeah, there you go. That one, the lock, I think, is broken on the auto aperture, so you just have to put it in the
There we go.
highest possible aperture.
Yep. Now.
What was that?
Focusing.
Oh, yeah,
Dunk.
quick. Yeah.
Dude.
That lens is kind of a loud focuser.
Dude. Okay, I'm just going to focus from here.
It's quick.
Dude.
The problem with that lens, though, is the front element rotates when it focuses. So using any type of, like a polarized filter, you have to adjust after you focus.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now, it's not the same on the 80 to 200. That does not rotate when you focus. So.
Right. Still, though. Oh. I'm at 800 in here. 1/160th of a second. Whoa, 1/125th. Oh, there's my problem.
What aperture is it shooting at?
I got it at 2.8.
Okay.
It's just dark in here, and it only goes up to 800 ISO. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But this was. I mean, I can still take pictures.
Sure.
I could put it into extended high.
I wouldn't. You'll get really, really, really grainy film.
Yeah.
And in those, it does not look like film grain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just looks noisy. Because the noise has color to it.
Yeah.
So the noise doesn't look like
It's got a
thunder.
button for everything. You know, continuous, single, manual is all there. Metering, focus mode. I mean, everything. And then I still get, you know, a shutter, both dials, and an AF lock on the vertical grip. You know.
Yep. I did a little bit of research for you on flash with that.
Oh,
You don't want to put your Godox on top of it, or
Oh, really?
whatever your aftermarket flash is.
Oh,
Is
really?
Is it a Godox?
Yeah, it's not the nice one. It's a,
But
it's
it
a
is
cheapie.
Godox.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to put that on the flash shoe, and the reason why is because the voltage that puts out is higher than 2.5 volts, and you will damage your flash shoe with that flash.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the newer flashes put out more energy than the older ones, and Nikon holds all of theirs at 2.5 volts or less going through the camera hot shoe.
From the camera to the flash.
I think it's the voltage coming from the flash to the camera that causes the issue.
Gotcha.
And I'm not sure why it has voltage going from the flash to the camera, but it must have something to do with TTL information.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, playing around with my thing, my transmitter. If you just take like a paper clip and connect those two pins, the outside pin and the bottom pin, it triggers. So it's not voltage from this triggering the flash; it's this completing a circuit for the battery and the flash, and that makes sense because that
So
Godox
voltage
says
is-
it has like a 12-volt battery or something in it.
Yeah, so you gotta be careful about that. Now, you're more than welcome to use my SB800s, because I'm not using them.
Now, does it work off of this? Is this some kind of transmitter for Nikons?
No, that's your white balance.
Oh,
So that's got a
'Cause it's
little
white.
camera inside there that's measuring the light coming through, and that's how it does the auto white balance.
that's smart.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Oh, and then this, well, you've had one of these, so this isn't surprising to you. But for doing night shots,
Yeah, that's the best thing in the world.
I had to buy a whole bunch of shitty little plastic things I got to remember to bring with me to cover over for doing like long exposures and astrophotography and everything. Because if you don't do that, astrophotos like in your backyard,
You
even
get
just
light
the
leak.
light from the house makes a huge difference. I'm like, why is the sky so polluted? I can't get. Oh, it's because my kitchen window is shining on the back of the camera. 30-second exposure doesn't mean dick.
Yeah, so that camera will be awesome when we set up the telescope. Because with the telescope, we're going to be shooting at 200 ISO anyway.
Right.
And so it's just long exposures, and that has a built-in bulb
Yep.
function. So
Yep.
with
Which
your
is nice.
remotes, you'll be able to just click it, and then you just stopwatch and decide when
I
to
think
take it
the
off.
only bummer with this doesn't have the same port as my 5300, so I'll need some other type of. But another nice thing, like, and this is must be just something. I hate it when manufacturers make cameras dumber than they need to be,
Uh-huh.
just to segment their products,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So they have something they can sell you to make it
Right.
smarter. It's a dongle.
Make all the dongles. The 5300 has a self-timer mode, which is great.
Like an intervalometer, or
No. So like, because sometimes for doing, like I want a really crispy, sharp landscape, or for doing a long exposure, you don't want
You
your
want
hand
stuff
press,
with-
right? So you got like the 2-second timer, so you can press the button, and then it starts taking the photo, right? On the 5300, you can set it to that. And then after one shot, it goes back to whatever your regular drive mode
This will
is.
stay on.
Yes,
that
I know.
Yeah.
There's even a button for like dedicated for bracketing. I can hold
Yeah.
this down and set my bracketing and everything instead of having to go in,
There's a
change the
button
drive mode to
for
bracket.
everything.
Dude, it is so good. But yeah, and it's got the button for self timer or the dial mode right there.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it's making me miss my old camera.
Well, and the shape of this. I mean, not
It's in
the
great
shape,
condition.
but it's in like pristine condition.
Yeah, once you get the door for it, you'll feel a lot better because you won't have to worry about the battery sliding out.
Yeah, and
and
it'll
it'll
look
feel
all
more
complete
comfortable.
and everything. But I mean, even the like number plate serial thing I'm back here isn't like all.
Yeah, no wear at all.
I am super happy. Like that, I don't know if they do reviews on their website, but I mean, and maybe I'll try to find one of the little rubber things that's supposed to go here to block off those two little ports. I think these are flash sync ports, aren't they?
Yeah, flash sync and something else. I can't remember what the other one is. But yeah, there's a little rubber, or actually for those, there's little screw-on caps. There's rubber caps on the newer version, but those have screw-ons.
Oh, you're right. There's threads.
Yeah, they're little screw-on caps. And they get lost easily, so they're easy to find in aftermarket. People make them because people lose them all the time.
Oh, and then just a little thing, little pro feature, right? Is like on the 5300, you know, it's a nice little body, and albeit I'll need to do some curls with this thing for it to be similar. But the card doors right here on the side, and if I got that big 600mm lens on there, it's quite possible for this hand to get a little loose, and then that door goes.
Oh, sure.
And then it acts like the SD card's not there, and it won't shoot anymore and all that. This, you have to lift this little door to protect the button, and then that button opens the door, and then that button ejects the card. It's like a whole process you got to go through to really make sure you want to get rid of that card.
You're certainly not going to do it on accident.
No.
How many shots are you getting on your card?
Which one? This one?
Yeah. Is it a 4 GB?
16.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people on the forums have, you know, only 4 GB cards existed when Nikon was still supporting this camera. So only 4 GB cards are on the validation list or whatever. Many people have gotten up to 32 to work with it, but 64 just isn't even recognized.
Oh, okay.
So I just got the 16 because it was like $17.99, and it was
over $1 a gig. That's not bad.
It's not bad, right? I don't need a ton of them, and it was, even though it's the middle of the road card these days, it's still 5 times faster than the top of the line card from when this came out.
Sure.
So, you know, those cards, the really high end ones, the Lexar 80X or whatever, was pushing like 10 megabytes a second or something, or maybe megabits. I could be wrong. Because 80X, 80 times 150 kilobytes, be 1,500 kilobytes, which is 1.5 megabytes. No, that's right. Okay, so yeah, it was pushing 10 megabytes a second. And this one's rated for 50, but like you saw, I sent you that picture off my computer, it'll read at almost 90 and writes at like 60. So,
yeah. Much faster than it's rated for.
I mean, I'm sure this camera can't even push it that fast, but
just the processor probably doesn't have.
Yeah.
That's the bottleneck would be the processor. Well, I'm taking it from your reaction that you're totally happy
super
so far.
stoked. For $100 now, albeit, so it was $139, free shipping. And then, so let's just round down, $15 for the memory card, $20 for the battery, $30 for the charger, so that's 50, 60, 70. So all in, I'm in $200 for the working body, and it's another $20 for this camera. So $220 for what was like a $6,000 camera 14 years ago.
Were they that much? I thought they were around $3,500, but you might be right.
No, brand new. No.
Were they $6,000?
Yeah.
I was saying earlier in a video I thought they were around $3,500, but I couldn't remember.
No, they were brutal, and the Canons were more. The Canon, the 1DS Mark II, was $8,000. Oh
my goodness!
Right?
Yeah, I guess I remember that. I remember being like, "Why would it be so much more?"
I know. And so it's got like 3, almost 4 more megapixels than this, but this shoots faster. I mean, and I'm looking at the old DP reviews from when it came out. They're like, it's just as sharp as the 1DS. You know, they didn't like the focusing as well as the Canon. But that's kind of been Nikon's downfall for a while. I mean, it's not bad.
Well, my prediction will be, without using pro lenses, you will find that you got a 3500. Is that correct? Your other camera?
5300.
5300. I got the numbers backwards. So a 5300. I think my prediction will be that you will find that the 5300 in all but perfect lighting condition is going to be the go-to camera. This camera, when you can set up lighting, is going to be the one that you're going to use all the time. And then certain situations like landscape and stuff where you're going to be able to put it on a tripod and allow for longer shutter exposure and things like that, you'll end up using this one. But I will be really curious to see the sharpness difference between the cameras. I'm wondering if the 5300 is going to be as sharp, and I'm also wondering if the period of time that they've had to work on things like focusing, if the 5300 will have a better hit rate on focus.
On like AFC?
Yeah, AFC.
Yeah, I would. So if I had to guess, I would say, yeah, the 5300 probably would do AFC with 3D tracking and everything much better than this.
Well, it's got more focus points to be able to do that, right? So there's more photo sites that are actually being used for focusing.
Right. But at the same time, it's not the best focuser. I mean, like I told you the other day, when I've got my Sigma out there, even if I'm shooting a still target with AFC, maybe I'm just picky. I'm probably not picky, but you know, when I'm shooting, you know, something, you know, with like 5 stops of optical stabilization and at 1/1250th of a second, right? I expect it to be tack sharp.
Yeah.
And in AFS, I can get that. I can lock on. I've got shots I took of this duck, this mallard, out at Barber Park, and focused on the eye, shot the eye. The duck is tack sharp. You can see the little veins of the feathers, you know, on the duck. Right. Put it into AFC. Did the same thing, and the duck's not moving. I'm not moving. I just had it in AFC because I was also trying to shoot moving birds and whatnot, and it's off in depth of field by like an inch.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
It is super frustrating when you get an amazing shot. Like I've got some shots of red-tailed hawks flying overhead, you know, and it's one of those. Each like niche of photography seems to have its, I don't know, ideal shot or golden shot. Like with photographing planes, they like want to freeze the plane but still have motion in the propeller. There's like a special, you know, amount of shutter speed that they try to get. That's the look they're going for. It seems to be is the plane is frozen, the plane's sharp, but the propeller is still blurry. And it's like 1/500th of a second, and it depends on what kind of plane and everything.
Sure,
right?
sure.
And I've been told with bird photography, getting birds on the wing, birds while they're flying, is what people really strive for because it's really hard to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got some great shots of a red-tailed hawk, you know, filling the frame overhead. And the 2 things I don't like about the shot is 1, it's not as sharp as I would like it to be, and 2, it's just a bird on a blue background, right? Because it's in the sky.
Interesting, does it?
So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, unless you can get a little bit of the background mountains and things like that, and the bird in the air, it's just not very interesting.
Right.
All my bird shots are exactly the same. Like a bird with its wings spread, everything else is blue.
Yeah. You know, and the part of that's hawks, but I mean, at least a hawk, you know, like glides around, so you can actually track it. Trying to track like a duck, booking it because, you know, it's scared or something is really freaking hard at 900 millimeters.
Sure. Sure. We should go out to my parents' pond sometime and try to catch the ducks landing.
Oh yeah,
because they're absolutely horrible landers. It's the most funny thing you'll ever see.
I saw some geese landing. I was on Gowan coming back from Brett's place. That night I invited you to come out. And they've got those little like water management ponds or whatever on the side of the road, and these geese were landing towards me right as I was going this way down the road, and they just stuck out their feet and like water ski for a little bit as they're coming in, and thump, 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 thump.
All right, so full disclosure, we got 1:21 left on this memory card, and I've been recording this entire conversation. So, just so you know. I don't know if I'll ever put it up, but I might. It's interesting.
I don't care.
But yeah, it seems like you're happy with it.
Super happy. I mean, because here's the thing, is it's only 12 megapixels. It's a crop sensor.
Sure.
Right? But the pictures I've seen that it's taken are amazing.
Yep.
You know, yeah, maybe the sensors are a little better or something. There's not a lot of like DxO mark info out there to determine why or not. But it's an amazing camera. It'll probably never break on me.
No.
I could throw it on the dirt bike,
yeah,
you know, and not worry about it. And for $100, $220 all in, if someone wanted to get into photography and take amazing shots and use older lenses that are cheaper, you couldn't go wrong.
All right, I'm going to end it there.